have you along on this Sunday morning live on Fox 5. It is March 2nd, 2025. We welcome you to Fox 5's On the Hill. I'm Tom Fitzgerald. We'll begin on the headlines this morning. The fallout continuing after that shouting match in the Oval Office between President Donald Trump and Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky. Now, those two leaders, as you know, met to sign an economic deal surrounding Ukraine's rare earth minerals. Zelensky wanted stronger security guarantees from President Trump to protect Ukraine from further Russian aggression. The tensions got heated. Take another listen.
You're gambling with World War III. And what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country.
During the war, everybody has problems, even you, but you have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future. God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless. God bless. You will not have war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem.
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come to the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media.
I've empowered you to be a tough guy. And I don't think you'd be a tough guy without the United States.
Aftermath this morning and a first account of what went on in the room after the blowout. The formal news conference was called off afterwards. The president said as he left the White House, Zelensky was not, quote, ready for peace. In the end, Zelensky left the White House. I want to turn now to Mike Lyons, a retired U.S. Army Major who is an expert on national security and international military affairs. Mike, you know, Ukraine, for the most part, has fought this war since Russia's invasion, but we really haven't talked about where they are right now. So what is the status now? Is Ukraine winning? Is Russia winning? Who's ahead and who's still trying to hold on here?
Good morning, Tom. No, it's Ukraine capable of defending itself. It's innovated over the past year. It's created this capability to manufacture drones that has given it somewhat of an advantage. But the war fundamentally is a 1917 World War I type stalemate on both sides, where Russia is likely more on the offensive right now as they take yards and feet basically on a week-to-week basis. But they haven't had any real breakthroughs that threaten the main balance of both the Ukraine and the country. The Ukraine military has done well in the northeastern part of it, but again, overall, Ukraine still has lost that 20%, that area in the Donbass and that region in the south and Crimea, and has not been able to gain any of that land back. But Russia has also not accomplished its military objectives as well. So again, we sit here with a stalemate 3 years after the original invasion.
So at the top of the broadcast, we heard the president turn to Zelensky at one point and say, I've empowered you to be a tough guy. This invasion happened during the Biden administration. All this aid since has been under the previous administration. So what has the United States been doing? Because if you look at the percentage of gross national product, there are other countries in Europe who are actually spending more of their own income on this.
Well, what the United States is allowed to do is to take the money that we've given him or allocated him and to buy U.S. weapons from that, artillery rounds in particular. The kind of things that the Americans have provided have been difference makers. I don't want to say what the European nations, not all of them have been difference makers, but the ATACMS, the long-range missiles, the fighter jets, the artillery rounds in particular. This is an artillery war on the ground. The Bradley fighting vehicles, Abrams tanks. So again, the United States has provided the real difference makers that have then taken place on the ground there.
One of the things
within the next.
Yeah, can you hear us, Mike?
Yeah, I can.
One of the things that we have heard is that Ukraine wants guarantees of security from the United States. This is a country that just had one of the world's superpower pour over its borders a couple years ago. What kind of guarantees would prevent that from happening again?
Yeah, there's no country that would agree to that because they're at war currently with Russia right now. What the rare earth minerals deal was trying to do was align us commercially with Ukraine. So now Donald Trump can go back to Russia with some implied level of security there and find out if Russia wants to end the war. That was his objective from the very beginning. So we don't really know if Russia really wants to end this war, but they might now if we had that deal with the rare earth minerals, because now Trump can now turn around and rearm Ukraine in a large manner. manner. But a security agreement or a security assurance, it wouldn't really be worth the paper it's printed on unless it's a treaty, kind of like NATO, how NATO works. We have the same security assurances for Ukraine in 1994 in the Budapest Memo, violated in 2014. The Obama administration did nothing, and really this has been downhill for Ukraine ever since then.
Mike, lastly, a lot of Americans are concerned about not putting U.S. forces in harm's way. Is there any scenario here where the United States military might have to play some peacekeeping role here if they were able to get some kind of agreement to end this war?
I don't think we would to U.S. forces on the ground there. That's not to say U.S. forces won't surround those NATO countries that are by Ukraine, but no, not inside that territory. I think that's going to be too dangerous. We'll provide oversight, technology, other military assets to it, but the Trump administration is pretty clear about not putting U.S. forces anywhere near the battlefield, and I think most Americans would agree with that now, considering where American forces have been the past 25 years.
Retired U.S. Army Major Mike Lyons, always a pleasure to speak to you, Mike. We appreciate your time.